We are winning. Yes, we are taking ground in this battle to make sure that things like, I don't know, the things we appreciate, like our freedom of expression, is not trampled on in this country. Let's talk about the feel-good stuff. Let's talk about the things that we are winning in right now, things that we are gaining ground in. It's not a full win. It's not, I don't even know if it's a half of a win, but it's a win nonetheless of making sure that we keep draconian laws off the books in this country and we maintain our freedom as Canadians. Josh, what is it you're talking about? I'm talking about the thing I've been crying about for the past several months since it was announced in February of this year. It was Bill C-63, the Online Harms Act. The one where the Liberals are trying to shoehorn in a bunch of weird laws in the name of protecting children. And really, the laws allow sweeping powers to take away your free speech, take away what you can say, limit the speech of those who they disagree with, and all of these different things. Sounds like you're over-exaggerating. Like, no, we'll go through the bill. We'll go over it again. But we are gaining ground. How so? How are we gaining ground? Well, Minister Arif Virani, who is the person who brought this bill to the table, who's been overseeing it, had to announce that they are breaking the bill apart into two parts. We'll let him explain what he means here.
Hi, so I'm here to talk about Bill C-63, the Online Harms Bill. And what I'm saying to you and to Canadians is that we as a government are making the determination to divide this bill into two parts. The first part of the bill will deal with the parts that target children and combating child sex predators and issues that relate to revenge porn. That is parts 1 and parts 4 of the bill. Parts 1 deals with the Digital Safety Commission. Part 4 deals with how you prosecute child sex predators under new tools under the Mandatory Reporting Act. Part 2 of the bill will be the Criminal Code amendments and the Canadian Human Rights Act amendments that deal with the important combat against hatred. These bills will proceed on different tracks. We are putting our emphasis and prioritization and our time and efforts on the first portion of the bill, which deals with child sex predators.
So you heard it there. They are splitting up the bill because it's been a bit of a distraction. The thing he didn't mention in that was because all the lawyers in the Canadian civil society is saying there are some serious constitutional issues with this bill. He's like, okay, we'll break it apart. We'll try to just focus. We'll have one part of the bill that focuses on the children aspect and the other part of the bill that focuses on all the other things that we're looking to take away from Canadians. Well, let's look at the bill here. They're looking at, as you said, they're breaking it up. Parts 1 and 4 go together. Parts 2 and 3 go together. So parts 1 and 4. These parts of the bill cover the Online Harms Act, which aims to address online harms such as the non-consensual distribution of intimate images, content that incites violence or terrorism, and content that induces children to harm themselves. So admittedly, we have laws on the books to cover a lot of these things. The only things we need probably more definition around are things like the distribution of like intimate images. Like our laws are a little hazy on that. We should have more clarity around that. But when it comes to producing and spreading content of children or people hurting themselves, we have laws on the books for these things already. So again, we'll take the win as it comes, but there's still more work to be done. But that's something they're breaking off. Then parts 2 and 3 are the ones where they are looking to amend the criminal code, amend our Canadian Human Rights Act here at home, which is such an egregious perspective, such an egregious thing to do because we are introducing a new law that requires us to amend our criminal code and amend our Human Rights Act. That's odd. Alarm bells should go off, and rightfully so, they have. Lawyers have come forward saying this is not the way. This is a bill that has so many problems written all over it, and this is what has forced the Liberals to speak. Dang it. These dang conservatives and these dang Canadians who just want to keep giving us the hard time of not instituting draconian laws. Okay, fine, we'll break it apart. The bill's just too ambiguous in a lot of ways. They're breaking it up in two parts, right? Parts 1 and 4 are going together. Parts 2 and 3 are going together. Parts 2 and 3 is the issue that a lot of lawyers had a problem with around the criminal code. And likely that piece of the bill is going to be dead in the water. That thing's not going anywhere. But the other one, parts 1 and 4, because they're hiding behind the notion that it's protecting children, that has a chance to pass. And there's one piece of this bill that is concerning because, well, there's a lot about it, but there is one piece that you got to keep your head up because they also are including the Digital Safety Commission as a part of that bill. So they want to establish a Digital Safety Commission, which will be appointed by the Prime Minister, and it will become essentially a partisan committee, whether you like it or not, who will dictate what is right, what is wrong, what companies need to take off their platforms, what they can keep up. And this commission will operate separately from our law enforcement agencies in the country. They will have sweeping measures to kind of do whatever they want, and they'll say what is allowed and what is not allowed. So that is another piece of like, okay, they're breaking it apart. That's a good thing, and that's a win. We'll take that win. But they're keeping the Digital Safety Commission along with the issues of addressing content that harms children. For the most part, as much as I said, like there's things are in the book, like we need more clarity around revenge porn, in other words. Does need more clarity around that. But there's so many other things that is not hidden right now. They're not hitting right. Again, we have a lot of laws on the books that cover these things already. Why do we need more? And everything this government has touched hasn't made anything better. They double up on everything. They double up on school lunches. They double up on pharmacare. They double up on $10 a day childcare that doesn't work. They continue to introduce things that don't either double up or are completely broken in how they are executed. So you're doubling up on more laws here, and we are to trust you that they're going to be dealt with properly. The fact that the commission gets to be appointed by the prime minister is more centralizing of power. So I said, there is a win here because it forced them to break this bill apart. So that's a win. But thing is, again, to keep in mind about this bill is in parts 1 of the bill, the term extremism and terrorism come up a lot. And this is one thing I want to keep in mind is they want to get rid of content that incites violent extremism or terrorism. And when you see that on its face, you're just like, yeah, of course, we all want that. We want to make sure we avoid extremism and terrorism as we've been seeing it in our streets. And it says that it means content that actively encourages a person to commit or that actively threatens the commission of, for a political, religious, or ideological purpose, an act of physical violence against a person or an act that causes property damage with the intention of intimidating or denouncing the public or any section of the public, or of compelling a person, government or domestic or international organization to do or to refrain from doing any act, and that given the context in which it is communicated should cause a person to commit and act that could cause serious bodily harm, a person's life to be endangered, and a serious risk to the health or safety of the public or any section of the public. Lots of terminology in there. And again, on its face, obviously there are some problematic sentences in there, but on its face, you're just like, yes, of course, we want to limit destruction in our streets. However, who's defining extremism? Who's defining terrorism? Well, we all know that our prime minister called the convoy a bunch of extremists. So based on this, you could have all your content removed that was promoting the convoy. And as you see Hamas supporters and Hezbollah supporters in the streets, they are not denounced at all. Or our public representatives drag their feet in denouncing them until the public forces them to denounce them. But not doing anything about those people. There's still posts and comments in the streets inciting violence. Nothing happened to these people. So, as I said, the idea of a digital safety commission is terrifying, and it's extra terrifying coming from this government. So, as I said, it's a win. Keep in mind, it's a feel-good Friday. It's a win because they're breaking the bill apart. However, the bill, as I said, parts 2 and 3 of the bill, when they're looking to amend the criminal code and amend our Human Rights Act here, that's a concern. And there are so many lawyers and people that are like, this is not going to pass. We are not going to sign off on this. So we can rest assured that's likely going to die. Parts 1 and 4 is the one you should keep your eye on because, again, it's being hidden amongst the idea that we're protecting children, but there are still some things that are problematic about that portion of the bill too. And whenever this liberal government brings anything like that in, when they have a history of looking to clamp down on free speech more and more in this country, then you should be on alert. And it's good news because, as I said, we have a scheduled election in October of next year. We're about 10 months away. This bill was introduced in the House of Commons February of this year. Look how much time has gone by and look how far it's gotten. First reading got through when it was introduced, February 26th. Second reading, it's still going. They had a sitting date June 7th and they had another sitting date September 23rd. This bill is moving at a snail's pace, and we want to keep it that way. Well, Josh, how do we keep it that way? Well, I know that we've been talking about the slush fund documents. I'm the biggest supporter right now of Trudeau keeping those documents, because Trudeau keeping those documents is what keeps things like this bill from moving any further. Then we can get our election, get someone in power that we can trust a little bit more, and we know that can amend or get rid of a lot of this trash and actually focus on the laws that really matter, like focusing on the aspects of child pornography and things that harm children with a little more precision and focus that it deserves, rather than just these sweeping bills that clearly it's not about the children, not about saving children. It's about control. So at this point, they've broken it apart. Both bills now will move to committee, and they'll discuss it in committee, and committee could take a while. They're going on Christmas break here next week. They'll come back mid-January, and by then, we'll be 9 months away from an election. And the goal is keep being loud, keep talking to your MPs, keep bringing this up, keep the pressure on them to make sure this does not pass. And it will get ugly. Because now that they've broken it apart, parts 1 and 4 are about the children. So now when you speak out about this, you have to be thoughtful in how you speak out about it. Because immediately if you say, I'm against Bill C-63A, whatever they're going to call it, like, oh, so you want child pornography to be distributed? You want revenge porn to be a thing? That's how they'll mask it and try to blanket you. And that's where you have to be thoughtful in your approach and how you address these issues. You're like, no, there's just other parts of the bill that they're shoehorning in that are concerning for me. They talk about how they want to eliminate extremism, but we've seen the history of extremism and how they treat it in this country, at least this government has. So who's deemed an extremist? And I don't like the idea that we are establishing a commission of people that are appointed by one person. It's clearly going to have a partisan lean. So that's a concern to me. And then these people have sweeping powers that are separate from our law enforcement agencies. That's a concern. Those are the conversations you need to be having with your friends, family, to sway hearts and minds. Do not let them paint you as the worst thing ever. Look at brass tacks. Look at what's going on in the bill. Look at the issues of the bill and what's concerning to you. And also cede ground. Be humble. Yeah, I'm all on board. Let's protect children. Let's make sure people aren't, let's make sure revenge porn isn't a thing or it's not legal. Let's make sure we're protecting people. Those are important things. We want those things too. However, it's just they're adding things to this bill that are a little concerning. And I'd like us to have a more precise approach to dealing with these issues. So I think this bill just needs to die altogether. And let's introduce something new where we really focus on the issues at hand that we both care about. That's the conversation you need to be having. Don't get emotional. Don't get tied up in your feelings, because that wins over nobody. Either way, have a good Good Friday, and I'll see you later.